Okay, welcome to your restorative. I want you to start with approaching the bolster support. So you have a rolled up blanket and a bolster kind of to make a ramp on top of the blanket. And then on top of that, you can have a folded blanket that could be just a quarter fold, or if your back is a little bit tender right now, you might have it a little bit higher. Remember, you can always take the height down pretty easily, okay? So you got a wall space, and we're going to sit in front of the bolster. Okay, I've got a belt, and I'm going to take the first shape so that my knees are falling out. That's kind of a good thing. Like, and to explain in Supta Baddha Konasana is the knees fall out. So when they fall out, I put blocks under them. If the blocks feel kind of too much pressure, you can always use like little pillows. Pretty nice to do for this pose. Have a sandbag nearby. Have a ball. If you have a therapy ball, keep that close. And as you lower back, I want you to first, take your belt around your head. It's looped up in a moderate size loop. If it's twisted, it's okay. Around the feet, that kind of feels good sometimes. Then I'm just going to tighten it down and then lean forward to scoop up my feet and then pull the buckle part close to where I can get a hold of it if I need to get out. And if you like a little more secure circulation in the legs, you could twist the belt around the ankles, just turn it, twist it, and then hook the feet with that belt. That's kind of a neat feeling. It's very much, it pulls the back and stretches it. So up to you. Okay, lower back, be sure the bolster is snug up to the sacrum, the base of the spine. And if your blanket's rolled a little higher, it will surprise you. Like, oh, I already have my bolster service there supporting me. Okay, so aim to please the circulation in your back, and then the knees, as they fall open, find a contour of the block, maybe pivot the block so that the hips can just slowly stretch open, okay? As if you were just getting into this body and giving it as much care and support as you can. It's a good way to approach the beginning of your practice. If you have a sandbag, you're going to place that either across the ribs or from the heart down to the belly. And feel what seems to be absorbable, right? So if I put my sand and it seems like it's falling down, I'm going to choose where it's centered and supporting. I like that feeling of supporting the abdominals. We're going to have quite a bit of low back care today, so you might find something on the tummy for the weight can be a cross balance for the back. And then let the arms actually reach back behind you. Again, if you don't like the blanket height, you can always lower it down. It's up to you. It's really up to you. Open up with the armpit chest and feel the hands reaching towards the elbows. And as you get a hold of the elbows or the forearms, whichever you can apply that touch to, I want you to feel where the spine, right, it tries to find its natural contour, its natural arch, and relax the lower back into the props. And certainly reset the blocks if they feel like they're digging into you, or you don't have to use them. You might lower them all the way down so your legs kind of barely touch them at the knees. Right, so you could try that if they do dig into you and feel, oh, I have that flexibility, I can take that. Just don't ever do something where you feel one side has a physical difference in its tone. Change the crossing of the arms, opposite arm on top, feeling where the spine relaxes back into the props. Now relax the grip, and this will be a good time. If you have the blanket pretty high up, you might lower it down, just unfold it so that the spine can now adjust to, you don't want your cervical vertebrae too rounded, right? So that might be a good start for you to get the back warmed up. But then feel if you can relax the jaw so it slightly tips up for the natural curve of the neck, and let the arms rest on the ground. Breathe in through the nose. Relax the breath out through the nose or the mouth. But do feel that pumping action of your core. Maybe a lift up, a lowering down to start. And then add on the thoracic support. So the shoulders purposely roll back. You know this is good. So shoulders rolling back. And then instead of just feeling that pumping action, you start to feel the spread of the ribs. And if the weight on your core is too much, like you're feeling like you can't get a good breath, it's tightening you up, you can always slide your sand off. It is weight training for your breathing muscles, so it's not easy. But if you need to take that sand off, if you're congested, just slide it off. But if you're fine, strengthen your respiratory muscles, use the sand. This is a great thing to do just in general. Lay on your back, have your legs up on a chair, and focus on strengthening the intercostals. The diaphragm is what's strengthening primarily with the sand, okay? Because it's a weight, it's pressure. It's still going to go its own little motion, right, down to the abdominal organs and sweeps back up. But now it has 10 more pounds on it. Okay, now we'll remain the same with the support under our spine, but we're going to slowly start to shift and coordinate the awareness on the inner leg and across into the back of that leg and towards the hip. So as we bring the arms a little farther out to the side on the ground, so take a few more moments feeling where the inner arm is pulling. I just want you to feel inner arm before we feel inner leg. Okay. And then as you slide the hands close to the mat, you're going to move the sand. I think you should, actually, let's see if you have sand, keep it on, but from heart to belly, so straight down. If it's across the ribs, turn it this way. If you're sand free, that's okay. Okay, but I want us to try this. So we're going to unbuckle. Okay, so try that. Unbuckle the belt, pull on it. If it's crossed at the ankle, scoot your feet towards the groins. If you get a foot stuck in the loop, just pull it across. Take your ball. If you don't have a ball, use a block. It's fine too, because you're still accessing the inner leg. So feel and sometimes these accessory muscles is kind of interesting too. So spread the arms out again so you can feel armpit chest focus. Don't worry about adding the attention to detail of shoulders pushing back. Just be supported. All right, squeeze the ball so much, right? Just really squeeze the ball. You just worked on the adductors moving out with the knees falling open. So now we're going to go in the opposite to strengthen into the hips. It's pretty minor, right? It's just simple, squeeze something. But when you're squeezing, notice how you bear the pressure of the breath. So try to keep the muscles active. If you have to release the squeeze, then just let it go and go back. But squeeze the ball, and as you breathe in, feel the ribs expand. And as you exhale, the next time, relax the grip on the ball and take one more squeeze. Maybe it's 80% of your maximum. Breathe in. So just feeling like you're trying to lift the sandbag a little bit. And then exhale, relax the squeeze. Okay, so as we move the sand off to any side, we're going to take the ball and place it to the upper outer left thigh. Okay, Now, as I place the ball, I'm actually going to push it a little bit with my hip, like I'm gonna wag my tail a little bit to the left, like push it out to the ball, and then push the ball into the upper outer thigh, and slide the feet down a little way so it's easier for you to cross the ankle. Lift the right foot off the ground and feel, okay, so if I'm far enough down with my feet, it's so much easier on my back, okay? I try to use this stuff for good back care. And then as I lift the right ankle, cross it over to the left knee, I'm gonna go right into lean my weight into the ball. So if you wanna kind of rock a little back and forth, it's likely pretty good behavior, right, for adjusting into our back. But take some care as you lean into the ball, you really wanna push it in to that outer, upper, right, left leg. Is it outer or upper? Okay. Lean into the ball and hold the right knee with the left hand. Okay. If it's not enough of a stretch, you can slide the left foot closer in and be on the side of the left foot. It might not be enough stretch if your left foot's far down, but I don't know what that means, enough stretch. So find what gives you some circulation to the side of this right thigh. Okay, so some of you wanting to work like an IT band, you might go, okay, how should I work this? Should I pull my knee towards me? That's one suggestion, but I like the idea of a little bit of pull with the left hand, moving the knee towards you, and then guide the knee over to the left side. Okay, feel where the weight is on the ball, should be a little bit. Stretch the right arm back besides your head, but if that's too much, put it on the floor, okay? You might roll your head to the right. Okay, you might find, oh, that's kind of interesting for just observing, because you don't want everything jamming on one side. So feel your head roll, hold onto the knee, let the left ankle relax. So don't try to put your weight in the bottom of the left foot. Breathing. Okay. Now, this is an action of kind of intention here. So when your knees going to the right, they're kind of, oh, sorry, left, they're both going left. They're both going to the left, but you're pulling on one of them. Okay, now, when you let go of the leg, see if you can still have that intention of the knee drawing to the left side. It's easier if we were flat on our back, I know, but we're not, so we're stretching our back a little bit. Okay, now, get a hold of the ball, and I want you to bring your knees back center and pass the ball to the right hand, push down into your left foot. I like to uncross the leg to do this because I have a little difficulty maneuvering the ball under my right buttock, but you can put the ball under the right upper right buttock, so the upper back part of the glute, right center of buttock, and then as you right up to the rim of the pelvis. Lower the right foot down and move the hips side to side, wag your tail, massaging into the glute. If you don't have a ball, okay, you can windshield wiper. So if you don't have any ball to put under, you can let the knees sway side to side as long as the feet are far apart. Okay, so lifting, massage, use a lot of weight into the ball. Even if you get a little bit of sway with the hips, but more weight into the ball, really get that global kind of shear across the hip, which clearly reflects into the back, kind of easing. All right, you want to get a good scoop of this one for circulation into that right side, right below the right side of the back, right? The ball's not any higher because the bolster's in the way. It kind of makes it easy. Okay. Now, if your feet are on the ground, right, both of them, right, see if you can kick the right foot up a little bit as if you're moving your knee towards your right shoulder. You're not going to touch the shoulder, but you're stretching the back, push down to the left foot, and just feel the tailbone scoop under, right, like you're moving into a pelvic tilt here. Stretching out that lower back. If the blanket on top of the bolster seems like too much height, you can always slide it back here. And then as you lower down, we're going to keep the ball on the right side. So we're going to just simply push it to the upper outer right thigh where you're not sitting on it now, and left ankle to right knee. Now you can slide your right foot down. If you're sliding off your bolster, just take a moment with your palms pushing close to the sides, just the edge of the mat. Don't go too close in. And then just lift and push yourself back. Be careful, right? Make it easy on your spine. And then tip the knees over to the right side or go a little back and forth. Just kind of push into the ball. Give the body a little bit of rebound therapy here for the circulatory system. It's kind of nice to do a little bit of that bouncy. And then right ankle on the bottom is, it's turned, so you're on the side of the foot, and then hold the left knee. And again, it might be different on the second side. You might feel more in the hip than in the side of the leg. So make sure you're giving yourself an equal, really an equal opportunity on the second side. So try to feel, okay, am I about the same on my bolster? I don't know, because I'm in the present moment. So it's hard to know what I was doing 2 minutes ago, but you might find that just that lift of the knee on that left side, and I'm pulling, drawing the knee towards the right. The block is in the way for me, and I'm using it to lean into. I kind of like that. And you could take your left arm to reach back. You could turn your head to the left. You could let go of the knee if you don't like to hold it. You might notice, well, that's kind of helpful to have a hand pulling my leg. And you can always use that block a lot to rest your right knee on. Now, if you're gritting or kind of clenching a bit to hold this one, use some more props, right? Use the block on that right side. Remember, you can just put it under your right shin or your left foot, right? Whatever's over there that's leaning, you could turn the block up a little bit higher. I like to contour it, okay? And then as I hold on to the left leg, this is where I want us to start for our back care. So I want you to feel that there's a lot of pull in the upper body to reach. And when you're holding onto the knee, see if you can separate the focus here from the hip into the leg, drawing it across to the right. And then just let that upper body center onto the bolster. Keep it so simple. You feel like you're just holding your knee and not activating, that's okay. One side it might be easier to draw it across. Okay, so our time's up on this variation, but I want us to still get into that left glute, right? So we follow up when we take the pulling pattern, and then we just simply shift the knee back center, but you might get a hold of the ball and know that this left leg was what you were, the top of the thighs where you're focusing. So you're gonna just put that ball to that left, under that left buttock. So as I lift, again, I like to kick my foot up. It's easier for my back to do that. And if it feels stiff in the back, then do things like if I'm near the wall, this is great. I can push into the wall and get the ball underneath. Think of that one. Okay, that's something to add to our sequencing coming up, using a wall to get into these. Okay, so roll the glute, right? You roll just the way you want. Easy does it. So you might find that one side of the pelvis that you're able to monitor the left buttock, but do push into it, massage it. Don't try to be especially intelligent about your choreography. Just feel the muscles that you're circulating, and that's it. Just feel that and go for it. Not how you look, but how the sensation is massaging into that left glute, right? So you're around the ball is really at the medial border for some of us. It's probably not right underneath our, like right at the center of the buttock. For some, we're going to roll more on the side because it feels like it's tight, right? It's tight, soft tissue, basically. It's got some knots in it. Okay, so take a few more. Now, if you just want to lay onto the ball and breathe, that's okay. And one thing I've enjoyed doing quite a bit is to have the ball just at my sacrum and just wiggle a little bit to ease my back. It makes a big difference. So we'll do that twice today. So I want you to take this to uncross. This is ball required though, is that you would just put the ball right at the final bone of the spine, the sacrum. So you're gonna feel like it's right up at the bolster here, right at the bolster. Just lay on that for a moment here. You can wiggle, right? You can move your hips side to side, but just lay on that. And I want you to let your hips move down. So now maybe your seat touches the ground. You can feel an extra stretch through the spine. I like to push into my feet personally and not drain it all the way. Okay. And then we're going to roll out of this. So I want you to roll either left or right. And we're going to take a significant change of events here for the sequence. So I want you to turn so your feet are at the wall. And what you're going to do is take your belt off your mat. I want you to have a couple blocks, easy reach. But first things first, hands, sides of the bolster, okay, grounded. And let's take the spine into that rounded shape. If you need a blanket under your knees, take that now. Place it under the knees if you need that. But as you arch and flex the spine, feel that growing movement up the chain of the back, right? So when I move my tailbone under and the chin in, right, there's a spinal column, so you can't completely smush, right, it together, right, tail all the way forward. You can only go so far, but take the moment here to feel that curling, that arching, and really get the cat-cow motion here. Chin towards the chest. Okay, walk the hands farther forward. If your bolster's kind of in the way, it's fine. You might like touching a little bit, but stretch forward so maybe the belly touches the bolster, but feel that arch through the spine into upward facing dog. Okay, lengthen through the hip flexors, hands pressed down. And then when you come back to table, I want you to feel some of these two balancing points for the spine. So toes under, feet are at the wall. And scoot the knees a little farther forward. If you have a blankie, you might want to make it, a single fold so you can slide around on it. But as you lift your knees up, I want you to have your heels up at the wall, right? Then you're not walking up the wall, but heels are lifted. And let your head lower towards the bolster. If you're lucky enough to feel where your bolster is, this is a good one. So my head touches towards my bolster a little bit. Okay, push the floor away. Okay, really press. Those of you that want to make a little more defined dog pose, you can lower the heels down towards the base of the wall. That might feel a little intense for the calves, but you can give it a try. Okay. And now as you move your head forward, you feel like you're coming in towards an upright push-up. You're going to lower down the knees and take child's pose with your bolster set like this. So what I recommend, you can crawl forward, but I'm going to try to keep in the screen here. So I'm just going to pull the blanket that's at the base, that's in that tight roll. And I'm going to bring the knees to the sides of the bolster. So when you have the knees on the side and you're straddling the bolster, some of us will find, oh, I can go into this. I can go to child's pose, but there's a few of us that might find, no, my knees don't like that. So here's my recommendation. If it's tough on the knees, take the blanket that's on top and you can just put it on top of your calves. I prefer this. Pull the blanket in so it's close to the back of the knees and then reach the hips back. Lower your head, turn your head one direction for the first few moments and hug the bolster. Or arms are going to stretch forward, or you can put your hands on blocks. If you've never tried this one with block hands, it's kind of interesting. Okay, child's pose is very good for the back, right? As long as the knees can do this. If it's too much on the knees, you can also add like another blanket here. You can have the hips tipped up and slide your chest farther forward on the bolster, but try to let the legs get a deep enough stretch that the back can elongate here. Natural spine reach, right? So my back is not in a kind of hunkered down position rounding here. You can tell this is not my version. It's my ribs stretched down and I have that nice curve in the back. Okay, and some of you might even reach your hands back towards your legs and rest your elbows out to the sides. There's a lot of versions of this one, huh? Turn your head to the other direction. Pivot. This doesn't work for your head in any direction. You can also put a blanket under your forehead or just tuck the chin in towards the chest. This feels really good for me. Just forehead down. Now breathe so that the ribs really expand in the back. Like you're really working your gills. So expansion of the ribs. Energetically softening the heart. Okay, now if you happen to have your hands on the blocks, use those to help promote that lift of the upper chest, pushing up. This is nice for my back muscles. If you haven't tried this, it's kind of interesting to have the blocks. And so that you're operating gently through the upper plane of the body. And then as I lift up, I'm going to move my blanket. So I'm going to use one under my knees coming up. So what I want you to come up from child's pose, walk the hands back. You might need to do down dog because the knees are going to want that stretch. So if you do so, go for it. But take the blanket that's under the bolster away. Okay? Just drop it over to the side. And let's take a moment where we step forward with our right foot. Okay? We're going to pivot the bolster across the mat horizontal and scoot the right foot in center. I did mention I was going to use a blanket under my knee. So you can, I think you'll want to. We are going to try pigeon pose pretty soon. So I think a blanket under the knee is going to be important for the height ratio of the situation in the legs, but it's up to you. Okay. It's an easier formula of it for the joints. So that's my reasoning for that. But take a lunge so the right knee is stacked over. You're stacking the joints, okay? Just the leg part, right? Not the shoulders and the hip. So full stretch in the front of the left thigh. So the hip flexor, psoas, hip flexors. Okay, so feel where that right thigh is pursuing going forward with the knee itself. Okay, and as you push into the left foot, take a moment to lift the chest. You could close your eyes. You could take your blocks a little bit higher because that'll bring you up a little bit more. And it's really interesting to use these shapes to articulate a balance of, definition in strength and obviously flexibility, but it's interesting to work on. It's a little more challenging than what we're used to doing here. So, but restore that front of the left thigh, lengthen. Okay, now feel where the weight processes from your back leg. Are you putting as much weight in the back knee as your right foot? I mean, that's the question, right, for this one. And it's a challenging one. Most of us don't want to put weight in the knee like that. So I want you to really feel when you push into your right foot, you're going to move the hips back, kind of like you do in cat pose, right? You kind of round a little bit, but you'll lift up the back knee and you'll push into the wall. I so hope your wall is going to stay sturdy for you because you're putting a lot of weight into it. Push, push, and bring the right hand back to the sacrum. Make sure your right foot is stable for you. If it feels like you're going to go into the splits and you're in a sock, right, you might bring your foot a little bit closer in towards the bolster under the knee. And then you're gonna turn to the right and try to straighten the right leg just a little bit more. And just work with it. Good. Yeah. So when I straighten out the leg, I'm getting a little bit into this IT band. Someone requested this. Okay, maybe it wasn't you. And use the weight into that block. I need a block on a high setting for this one. Maybe the right arm just stays on the back. I think that's plenty. You could work on striving a bit with the arm lifting, but this is a good one to really collect the weight bearing into the legs, right? If I lift my arm, I kind of struggle a little bit, but it does put more weight into my right leg, I guess, when my arm goes up. We're all learning, we're all students. Okay, one day to the next. Yeah, so as I lower the right hand down to the block, I want you to feel how you rotate the hip, and as you bend the right knee, push off the left foot, and then step the foot forward carefully. So just take a step, even if it seems like you could barely get there. Join the club. Okay, feet a good hips distance, maybe wider. If you want to go as wide as your mat, go for it. Again, some stances that are this far out are good for obviously hip opening, but you might like to bring your blocks far forward. If you're on a flooring that you can step out wider, take that if you feel comfortable and you're not going to slip slide away. But see if you can take your hands farther forward here. Again, this is a fairly wide stance, right? I'm as far out as the mat. I'm not hips distance now. So this will be easier to reach onto my blocks this far down. If my feet are closer, that's not the case, right? I need my blocks higher, okay? I do encourage you to use a block under each hand for this one. Even if you're really flexible, you can touch your hands to the ground. See if you can strengthen into your spinal curves here, okay? If you're rounding and you're creating that hump in the back, see if you can try to keep the ribs stretching towards the front. So maybe do a little cat-cow just to see if you can coordinate the ribs and the spine. Okay. Breathe. I know it's really tempting to drop your head all the way down, but try to keep that strength in the spine. Okay, in this next moment, of course, you're in your home practice. You do what you do best. But if you decide what feels best for you is to hold your feet, your ankles, you could. If you feel like that's best for you is to bring your elbows wide and head down like this, right? That feels better for you right now, take that. And if you want to stay with your hands on the blocks for the next 30 seconds, keep with that. So your choice. Okay, yogi's choice. Hands on blocks or hands, I have to say this feels kind of good. Lowering down. Okay, taking the moment here where the spine is active when you lift up your head. So if I lift my head, it goes forwards and my hands reach to my blocks. I'm going to bring my feet close together, as close as they could possibly be without stepping on each other. Take the blocks back and let's bring the arms out to the sides and come up. Take your feet to push down your feet and lift up. Caution, right? Blood pressure shifts. So bring the palms to push into each other and inhale, lift up your gaze, lift up your head to look between the hands. Wonderful. Push down into your feet. Keep that reach through the front of the hips, right? Even though it doesn't seem like I'm hip stretching, I'm pushing my thighs together, lifting up, okay? Breathe. Yeah, your feet might not be entirely touching. And then as you open out the arms, bend the knees, stretch the chest forward. And then as you lower the hands down, we're going to step the right foot back, whichever foot you didn't lunge on the last side. Maybe you're on the other side, who knows? But take the opposite foot back that you can recall. We're going to go backwards on this side. So we're going to start with the back knee up. Okay, so when I reach through the back heel, my heel is a little bit lifted. I think on each side I probably have the measurement slightly different, I bet you. So just notice when you push back into that foot, the positioning of its pressure right all the way through the leg, so it's not the same as like weight bearing with a weight I'm holding, but it's resistance, right? So I want you to feel that resistance all the way through the leg. Now there are thoughts of kind of motioning the glute like you're squeezing the buttock. It's not a bad tactic on this one. It's actually pretty harmonizing for my back muscles. So you could try that. Contract your right buttock. Your left buttock can't contract because it's in a lunge. And then bring the left hand to the sacrum and start to turn to your left. Remember, you want your hand on something to support you, a block, a stool, whatever you've got, and start to turn to the left and see if you can purposely straighten the left leg. Whew. I know there's a lot to work on inside, huh? So as you turn, left hand can stay on sacrum, left hand can lift up. Just be careful of your balance. Monitor the motion of the torso turning or having trouble turning. Great. Now left hand comes down to the block and I lower the back knee to the blanket as I let the left foot scoot a little forward so I can line up my knee over my ankle. Right, so you can look down to your left foot and just ensure that the ankle is easy to see. It's not underneath, right? So you can stretch the right thigh down. If you're sensitive on the knee, it just feels like it's a little risky for you. I want you to focus on this front rim of the right hip stretching. Right, try to get that to stretch. If you need to put something on top of your bolster and push it back towards the leg to help it, like so, this can work too. It's kind of a massage tactic, but it's interesting to get these quads to lengthen. Okay, now keep that positioning of movement in the back leg. You can almost hear it trying to get a little bit more motion. You can do it, quad. Keep going forward with your blocks. Okay, now the quad's gonna go on the next track. So we're gonna walk the left foot toe heel to the right side of your mat. Try to go closer in towards your bolster than up towards your block. Okay, so once you get across, you're gonna lose balance and you're gonna fall on your bolster with your left upper outer thigh, okay? So you're coming in a pigeon pose. So left foot pulls up, it parks next to the bolster and the floor, not on top of the bolster. And now you're a little bit cattywampus. So you're gonna lower down onto your blocks or the floor is fine so that you're able to, it's not, you're not matching the hip points, right? It's not completely levelized, but you're not going to be leaning all your weight on left buttock. Right foot could push into the wall. Right hip is still lengthening, right? You could bend the back leg. Maybe it doesn't make you smile, but as the left hip gets soaked, okay. If you lower your elbows down farther, right? If they go all the way to the ground, it's going to be a deeper stretch. So if you're not inviting that depth, you can have your elbows higher, which I think is a good way to go. But this feels pretty good right now. The elbows are center. Now, those of us that want to stay with the arms in more of a sphinx pose, we can separate the hands. You could have a block between your hands. That's kind of a good spacer for some people. They like to have something to hold. But palms down is good too. Okay, now keep that arch of the spine. So instead of going into more of a cat phase of the spine, you're in a little bit more of cow, right? A little more arch. Okay, now kind of push your weight into your left hip, left buttock, let's go. So you're gonna lean into the left buttock, you're gonna bring the right leg forward and change sides. So right knee bends and you lean. This is kind of easier way to get into pigeon, isn't it? Than standing. But when you stretch the left leg back, kind of feel like when I move the thigh behind me and I walk the hands forward, I'm trying to kind of tour around my hip and my spine, right? It's more hip, but I am trying to get a little bit of touring. It's a hip tour. That'd be a good name for a sequence, huh? The hip tour. You could have a whole series. But the left foot is going to decide. It could walk up the wall a little bit. It could just be down. You could scoot away from the wall if you don't care for the wall. Okay, now you decide. Are you going to lower down now? Are you already there? Yeah, my recommendation is to try to get towards the floor with your elbows. If it's just it just feels a little bit, you're really testing your edge there. You can bring your blocks under your arms, and that might be just the right thing. And then what about your breath? That's even more important, right? So feel the reaction of your inhale inside. See what moves and kind of pushes out when you bring that delivery of oxygen in. Right, the inhale you have to make room for it. I think that's one thing comes to mind right now, is to make room for my inhale and be able to let go. Okay, so this is focused on the right hip. Okay, it's glute a little bit. It's the side lateral rotators. It's a pretty good one. I really like using a bolster for the pigeon pose now. I pretty much never don't. I almost always use a bolster. Yes, occasionally I might not, but it's probably better for my knee joint. It's definitely better for my back. And so when I feel that reach back, I'm going to use the bolster under my ribs now. Okay, so walk the hands on back. Let's see if we can multitask with our props. Let's see what we can do. This means you have to balance in pigeon pose to get things, but take the blocks a little off to the side. One of the blocks can go to the back of your mat here. And I want you to grab your blanket if you have it nearby. Otherwise, you're kind of doing all your pose resetting in a pigeon pose, which is fine. So blanket across, then push into your hands and bring that right leg back. And you might need to do a little bit of cat-cow. I personally kind of crave moving into a down dog just for a moment with the heels up to stretch out my chest. Okay, move your hips a little side to side, or if you're in cat-cow, continue that. And then let's take our position to our ribs. Okay, so this is what I want you to take, is the bolster is going to stay just across your mat, same as it ever was. Take a blanket, stack it up on the other one. Take a ball and a sandbag for the upcoming adventure. I'm just going to put my sand on my bolster because you know what? I kind of like that because it keep it from turning. Because I have an issue with this bolster, pivoting when I lie on it. It's not when I lay on it. Okay, get a ball. Place it on the inside of the right knee if you want. Option. Okay. Now, when you place the ball there, it's going to be, you can move it around. You can use your left foot to push it, so it's not like you're stuck there. You can always move things around when you're in the pose. And then take your sand across the hip for this. Stage. Kind of neat to come into this point in the practice. So hold on to the block overhead, let your hand touch down. If it wants to go a little bit lower or just stray from the block, that's fine. If it's tense on the shoulder joint, you might need to move the block to the right. Yeah, that's a little more soothing for me, even though I can't see me, but can see some. But if I have my hand on the block's second setting or lowest setting, or just on my blanket, that's very simple for my joint. Now, if I lean into the position, I'm trying to let my left arm have a little reach between the bolster and the blankets. And then final challenge is to let my brain just relax. So the left leg is parked up really close to the bolster. So if your back is tight or it's sensitive right now, probably getting that lower, well, both of the legs are lower, huh? The left leg close to the bolster is going to be key for stretching your back. And the weight of your head, just let it go. Breathing. Soften the mental effort and really explore that felt sense of pushing into the breath, right? Feeling the breath push the ribs. And the practice evolves, right? Sometimes my thoughts about how we go from one to the next changes, with another day, right? How the body feels. So you might find some of these formulas don't match with you. So you can adjust as you go, right? If you need to do something in between or pause and do another motion. In our final few moments, the key part I find is my head relaxing. So if you're kind of looking towards a screen or something, neck muscles kind of grip up pretty quick. They snap into action. Just the way it is, like our mind is close to that area. Maybe there's some relationship with that, but I find that's a pretty responsive area to stimulus, right? The neck. Swallowing, clearing the throat. Yeah, we can't hear you, so you can make any noise you need to. Okay. Feeling the right thigh's movement. So feel that right thigh trying to reach a little bit back. Doesn't need, if it can't go, that's all right. Things sometimes work and sometimes resist. Resistance is real, right? So as I turn the chest towards the ceiling, I'm going to try to roll the back of my head. This is a big reach for a lot of reach for my back strength. It's good to test it. Think of this class as a real integration of not just restorative. There's other things we're doing here. So if it works, give it a try. Now, when the rolling motion here is pretty slight, right? If you were to mark how much movement you go, it's pretty small. Okay, but when I roll back, I'm going to bring the right hand to the sand, and if you have sand, you're going to push it off. And yeah, let's be intelligent on shifting the sides. I want to make it smooth for you. So you're going to roll left into the ribs first, hand second, push, get your ball, and place it to your back, right up at the bolster. Okay, turn so you're facing away from the bolster, and you're going to lean into the ball. Place the ball so it's as it's right at the base of the bolster's horizontal. You get to put the ball where you can massage into your back line. That feels good. I like mine to go up behind my heart, but kind of right snug at the base of the back of the heart, and then spin, right, and mobilize. I like this with my feet really close together. Some people might feel comfortable with them a little farther apart. But try to get that mobility in your ribs. You can definitely hold the back of your head on this one. That's the easy version of it. And it's good to find that you can lean back into your hands. Right? So if we were doing this without the bolster, we'd be doing core work, right? So if you were on your back with the ball behind the heart and you were just spinning and lifting a little bit, it's nice transverse obliques. It's kind of a good one. I like it. This version feels pretty easy, all right, with the bolster. So give a good little push, push, push. Lean back, hold onto your head. Okay, now help your head back up, help it back to center. Take side sage on the right side, or the other side you didn't do. So feel, or if you've made up a new name for a side, turn the hip. Yeah, be worried if I do that. Okay, turn into the right hip and adjust. Now the right leg close to the bolster is probably something that takes a few moments to get your back to respond. So I think the idea of getting into poses, and I'm just one brain in it, in the whole game. So I'm just one thinker in it. But you want to find that you can just gently convince your body to move into these poses, right? Because they do have an end, there is an end shape in them that you're striving for, but you don't need to get the knee right into that spot immediately, okay? So you might put your sand on after you lie onto the bolster. You might want to have it about the same on the second hip for today. Maybe another day you had it a different way. Adjust so the left leg stretches a little bit down and to the left of you. Maybe for you, it's not, you don't want to push that one too much. Some of you stretch your leg really far back, the left leg, and it works great. It probably feels pretty good if you can get there. I mean, there's no other time today you're going to get into that shape with your hip likely, so go for it. And then when you lean into your head and your arm reaching, yeah. If this is the side, if you're a side sleeper and this is the side, just notice how easy it is to get the neck to relax. It's kind of fun. If you have a certain habit and then you try the other side, it's curious. Okay, so work to realizing you can probably help heal some things in yourself on your own because you're the one in the body, right? Unfortunately, right? We got to reach out to others too, but just notice, okay, what's up here? I got my side reaching, my ribs moving with breath. Relax the weight into the bolster. Right arm is under, stretching through to the, out onto that side with the right hand relaxing. Yeah, left arm is over. And feel where the weight of your head relaxes into the blankets. Tilting it down to the ear or rolling to the back of the skull. Just feel what's better for you. It's no different than if you were sitting upright and stretching your neck, right? This is just easier on the neck. So use the body weight of your head to stretch your neck. And just remain in the circulation for the ribs. Breathe slow. If the weight gives you the stretch, that's a good sign, right? So if you feel like, oh, right where that weight is, I'm feeling it pull the muscles above it, giving them a little bit more length. That's part of what we're up to, right? Getting length here in the muscles, creating more inner spaciousness. Okay, so feel where the right thigh is connected towards the bolster, not on top. If it's close to touching, or maybe the lower part of the upper thigh, like the knee area, is kind of hiked up towards the bolster. Okay, stay with this kind of awareness, because I'm trying to get the programming, the sequencing, I'm trying to get it pretty. I want you to be able to recognize kind of where we're motioning. So the right leg is the bending one here. Left leg bends too, but that one's closer to the bolster. Okay, at least that hip is, huh? Now, when you are turning towards the left, when you get ready to come out of this one, let your head roll to the back. If that's sensitive to your neck, don't do it, right? If you feel like I can't do that, my back is feeling too much, then don't do it. But noticing how the front body, getting this area to elongate, is a really big part of helping our back body loosen up and feel more relaxed, right? So I want to find that. And then as I roll to the right side, I'm going to reach down and just push my sandbag. Now, keep the sandbag to the right side of the bolster. And then when you roll into that right side, this time when you come up, we're going to push one of our blankets away. In fact, we might use it put it away so it's really not distracting your shaker. Push the blanket back so you got one single fold, and you're going to sit on the bolster, have a ball between the knees or a block, okay, and then lower back. So you got a blanket under your head. Okay, if you've got all these things around you, blocks and so forth, and need a reset, it's a good time to find the bolster under the back of the pelvis. Follow the rule of the ribs on this one. So you feel the ribs lifting a little bit at the base, okay? I like to scooch my hips so I feel like, yes, the bolster is really on, my lumbars are supported. This is what I want my spine to feel the natural curve, right? Especially that lumbar. Okay, arms stretch open. Got things in our way, maybe arms are out and knees go side to side. Start with kind of your intermediate version, so you might go pretty far over, but wait for the big event to get the knees farther over. Just take it easy here. Easy does it, side to side for your back and your hips. Relax your hands. They're not going to do anything right now, even though they do just about everything, right? So the pelvis and the hips are what get you around during the day. So feel how you can let the spine have that nice stretch. Remember, any of these shapes you want to pass on and do something else is completely fine. Now, I'm not squeezing the ball purposely. It is a spacer, which is important for what we're doing here. It's a spacer. Now let the legs lift up and feel the inner thigh squeezing in. Now reset the ball if you need to, like I do. I have to put it right between the knees so that MCL, right, that ligament on the inside. So I'm trying to squeeze into the ball. Should hurt, but if it hurts, you don't squeeze, right? If it hurts. Okay. Everyone's got their individual stuff. Okay. Now you could put the hands onto the sides of the lower waist area, so not really necessarily on the navel center, but towards the sides. So I'm onto the palms, onto my lower abdominals. I'm going to bend the knees, and as I bend the knees, I'm going to squeeze the ball. And I want to make sure my abdominals, my lower belly's relaxed, so it's like I'm puffing it up. And as I exhale towards the spine, legs lift up, straight up with the feet, and then bend the knees, squeeze, inhale, filling up the balloon, and exhale, legs up. Belly just kind of drops back towards the base. Okay, let's do one more. Inhale. At least the ball reminds you to fill up. And then exhale, let the legs swing back up. Okay, take your belts. Where did that thing go? I think I see something like, looks like a belt, resembles a belt, but it's a sandbag handle probably. All right, take your belt and you're gonna bend, actually, let's buckle it up. So let's make a big loop with our belt so that we have a connection for our foot and our, hopefully your head, right? Your occipital, occiput. So tighten that up, make sure it's in a loop. You're gonna have to change the tightness. Remove the ball and you'll take, I'm gonna keep using these props, so don't toss them across the room yet. Scoop up the right foot and actually feel when you scoop up the foot, the left knee's still pointing up. Okay, I'm gonna get the buckle close to my easy reach for my vision here. And now as the left foot comes down, the bottom of the foot, A, okay, get your sand and place it on the top of the left thigh. This is our little science experiment day, I guess, with our props, huh? Place the sand on the left thigh. Your leg can stretch down or it can stay bent. Gotta be your own choice here. Don't do too much, right? So if you feel like the bent leg is just fine, stay with it. You can turn the sandbag too. Okay, take the loop. So you've got a pretty ambitious loop here. And you're going to bring your belt, you're going to hold on to the belt and reach it to the back of your head, to the shelf at the back of your head. That's probably your best instruction. The shelf at the back of your head is where your belt goes. Doesn't go too low, doesn't go under the shelf on your neck, but it's going to go to the shelf. Okay, now if the left leg straightens out, it's probably going to feel a little more ambitious, but you don't have to. Brain float. So feel where that right leg is in the spirit of lifting. And of course, you can tighten the belt if you want more hamstring evidence here, but it's obvious there is all things are considered right now in the leg parts, in the hip flexor. Relax the arms open. I would go straight out with the arms versus goalpost, but it's up to you. It's ideally an inverted quality for the heart, for the vascular system. So I don't want my arms to swing over my shoulders because that's higher than heart level. So I've got to kind of adjust it here. So my arms are heart or lower. Okay. Let your brain just kind of levitate for a few moments here. Feel it hovering, it's lifting. It's gently stretching the cervical. Connect so that the foot is certainly flexing and stretching through the ankle and the calf. If your back gets sensitive, just bend the left knee. You can always push your sand away. Now reach for the sand and slide it up to the belly, a cross belly sand, and then bring the left foot up into the belt. I need my hands behind my head to hold the belt, and then I switch it. So the right foot, bottom of the foot down first, then I've got the leg lifting, and then I have to decide, does this side, can it take the same resistance? Probably. It's a little different, slightly. It's not my dominant leg, right? So it might have a little less suppleness. Good. So what I need to do is put my sand on the right thigh. I'm okay straightening the leg, but you might want to keep it bending. It's up to you. But you can decide, do you need to loosen up the belt? Are you able to adjust? What might be true is each side of your back could be getting towards balance by now. And then you can kind of send that message up the back of the leg and use the back stretch to keep the legs in the same resistance with the belt. So you're going to have the same length on each side if you can. If you can't tolerate it, change it, loosen it, tighten it, Remember, you don't have to be so high up that you're trying to put your head towards your knee. That's not the goal here, right? It's traction for the neck. Okay. Now let the right leg release down. Maybe your head lowers back. Arms are open. Yeah, feeling differences, maybe swirling around the back of a knee. If you notice a little bit of micro bend is useful for you, you might acquire that. Just notice if your knee is kind of turning inwards, it's sometimes good just to get a hand on each side of the knee and kind of wobble it a little bit. You know, there could be more tone on the inner leg, right? The inner knee, I mean, inner leg too. So just noticing, right, how your bending ability is. I mean, it's the basic things that, the basic function that matters as you mature. Like, I just want this to basically work and not hurt. So feel what's working. Like the hamstring should get some deep stretch here. If you touch the back of it, it should feel like, oh, there's some tone working here. Okay, arms are relaxed out if they're already there, great. That hip is hiked up a little bit here, clearly. A few more breaths. Okay, now slide the sand off first, and you're going to hold onto the belt, and as you slide it off your head, lower down, actually don't lower down yet, bring the right foot up into the belt, push the feet out wide into a wide stance, okay? A little bend of the knees, but not too much, right? If you feel confident to have the legs swing a little bit back, go for it. Just that caution of the back muscles, I do want you to stretch on them. So the feet push out into a comfortable width. So if it feels like it's borderline and it's kind of shaky, then just snug up the belt, cinch it up a little bit. It'd probably make a difference. I like to do this when I kind of feel like I'm trying to wag my tail. And it just feels like it gets some nice warmth into the root of my hip roots. Yay, hip roots. Bend the knees, grab onto the belt piece that's closest, slide the feet to each other. And as you soften the knees and deep to the chest, hold that and slide the belt off of your feet. Hold the depth of the bend into your chest. This is deep, right? Because you got a bolster pushing your hips up. So you're kind of in this upward facing forward bend. Okay, knees in, hands carefully to the bolster. And I want you to just push one side at a time. Okay, we're going to do a nice hip crossover, so slow we go here. Okay, now, once you get to the tail, bring the knees in close to the chest, and then coordinate the spine and the back center. It might be easy, okay? All right, so let's take our bolster, put it over to the right side of your mat on the side yard. First things first, we feel this hug of the knees in, okay? Now take a ball, you're gonna bring your feet down to the floor and lift up the hips and place the ball under the left buttock, close towards the pelvis, right? So not under the contour to the hamstring, but up to the pelvis, and roll side to side. If you find that this one you're pretty good at going both left and right, you could put the ball at the sacrum and then just let your hips really move side to side, like you mean it, like wagging your tail like never before. That I think is very comforting. Just ball is in the center, and I move my hips side to side. This is a good one to do at the wall. You can stand up next to a wall and massage into sacrum and across to the hips. It's a pretty soft ball, so if it falls behind you to the floor, it's not like a tennis ball or something. It won't bounce back at you. Okay, so take it a few more times. If you were only one glute at a time, go to the right. If you want to try, just go to the right anyway. It's nice to do. But just getting some nice, it's a stretch reflex when you roll the ball, right? It's hydrating. It helps, massage out, warm up, get the knots out. It's helpful. I think this is one of my go-tos for certain now. Okay, so come away from the ball for the moment, under your back, bring the spine down so it feels flat. And then you're going to bring the right leg to stretch to the wall and cross the left leg over to the bolster. Tuck the ball to the sacrum and then add your sand to the outer, I would say probably, maybe you start with the upper outer left thigh. Some of you like to go towards the knee, but you don't know. It's a new day, right? So you might go, oh, okay, today this feels, I usually do this direction, but maybe I change it up. So I would just fuss around with it. You don't want to make it feel vulnerable or it's kind of on the edge. You want to find, okay, it's a predictable source of circulation, having the sand, and as the arm moves open to the left, you can have it low, it could be a little bit higher. Again, we're at the final spinal now, so make it so it's truly okay. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's a source of comfort for the areas that can feel restricted and tense. To have the sand, it's like it's definitely a hand, it's like a touching technique, right, to use your sand bag. It's very therapeutic. Breathe across the ribs. Exhale completely. Now keep the upper body in a fairly still frame. So it's going to have a little small movements, but try to stay with the upper body is going to stay about the same, especially from the kind of the mid ribs up, right? From the lower ribs down, it's going to move, but try to keep it simple with the switch over. So when I move the ball and I roll, I'm going to let the knees motion center so they're touching, right? The knees are I'm going to push into my feet, scoot my pelvis center, knees rest on each other, or they rest into each other. Okay, and then take the bolster to the left side or the other side you didn't do. You might move your hips and put your whole body a little to the right. Now you're moving your upper body more than I mentioned, huh? And then right leg swings to the left, but you're trying to keep that upper body as balanced as possible. So kind of still, add your sand to the outer right thigh and go into the spinal. We do one more pose, but it's almost the final spinal. So cross balance the hip joint into the lateral rotators. And as the right arm opens out, feel where the circulation responds across the ribs. Definitely do a little bit of assessment here of how the motion is in the breath, right? So the body's kind of stuck, right? The position is pulling the leg across to influence the lower back and the hip. So it's a pretty high bar down at the hip and the low back land. And when your upper body has that little bit of twist, You're noticing how the back is capable of reaching. So when you decide to come into the final pose, if your back is ultra sensitive, you might want to put your legs up on like the bolster bench when you put blocks under the bolster and a blanket on top. That might be sincerely easier on the back. So when you swing the legs up the wall, it's a lot of strength required just to get that abdominal strength and lower back. So that doesn't seem achievable for you. I'm going to give you that second option coming up here. Just take a scan of sensation in your back. Do you feel a stretch in the hip? Does it just stay the same? Does it change? So when you move the ball away, just kind of check in with the knees going left. So I've got the right knee going left. So when I move my sand away, I'm going to kind of check in with the movement over to my left side, rolling to the left, knees over, pushing. And then when you come up, you might go, okay, I'm going to just see. I want to stay with a little easier inversion. If you do, most all of you know how to get legs up the wall. It feels good. You put your bolster right next to the wall. You sit at the bolster and swing the legs up. You can see it on many videos I have, but we'll try something a little different just for change. You want the wall though for this though. You're going to have your two blocks. I know most of us are going to do legs up, but this is nice if your back is a little sensitive. Put the blocks at the second setting and then put the bolster and a blanket on top of it. You can let the blanket be flat. It's a little easier on your calves. And then the blanket is underneath. And then when you put your legs up, God, it's been ages since we did this one in Zoom though. Oh, years. My feet touch the wall. My sand could be on my shins, but if you got low back sensitivity, not a good idea because you have to get the sand off on your own. So you're going to scoot your tail forward and lower back with the blanket either under your head in a low fold, or you could make it a little higher if that's easier. But have your sand right up there at the ribs. This is good because you're not tilted up like you did in the beginning. So you probably can put your sand across your ribs. Now, if your legs are up the wall, you're going to have your pelvis on the bolster, your legs swing up. Okay, yes, it's a better inversion. There's more benefit for the heart health, but this is probably more soothing for some of us. So if you're in strain and difficulty, this is where you go, right? Otherwise, your nervous system is not going to let you center for your immune system to receive the other pose, right? If you're just in pain, none going to work. So let the arms relax down, whether you're in Viparita Karani, legs up, or you're in Stonehenge. Okay. Let the spine center and receive your breath. Either version, the arms are below the level of the heart. They're not up high. Otherwise, the heart rate can't slow down and the blood pressure can't really lower, right? So you want to have your arms below the heart. And feel that pumping action of the abdominal motion. And on the exhalation, relax the breath. Gently feel the reach of the tailbone down, whether it's on the floor or the bolster, feeling that point of contact at the base of the spine. See if you can find that there's a length up from the tailbone through the spine, all the way up to the brain. And just soften the mental effort, let it go. If you're on the bolster and your knees kind of move outwards, that's great. You're in a little bit of that cobbler's pose again. That might be significant for your hip and for your back. If your legs are up the wall, you could also bend the knees. If you have sand on the feet, take the sand off, bring your feet into a cobbler's pose. So the feet would be together, the knees out. When you're up at the wall like so, you can just bring the feet to each other, knees fall open. Okay. Take a few more moments. Those of you with the sandy feet, this is probably a good time in the next few moments to take the sand off. Whether you take Calver's pose or not, you can always bend the knees to your chest. And just feel where you meet with the back of the pelvis. Now, those of us with the legs on the bolster, I want you to start to bring the knees a little bit closer in towards each other, and then move the sandbags away for all. And as you draw the knees in towards your chest, if you're right up at the wall with the bolster under the pelvis, you're already in a cannonball shape, right? You can't help it but be all smushed in. But if you're on the firmness of the floor, I want you to really feel your hands hold the knees and move the backs of the thighs to stretch. Rock a little side to side, and then roll to one side and come up. Okay, take a seat, right? So if you're seated with your bolster right next to the wall, that's pretty easy. I haven't tried this version of sitting up on my bolster, but I'm tempted. I'm going to try. Okay, so feel where the knees fall open. This is a lot easier on your back, right? Having the bolster high, shoulders rolling back. Okay, if you're lucky enough to touch the wall and trust it, I would. But if you're not trusting and you're on blocks, maybe caution. Bring your chest forward, bring your hands to your chest, palms together, and just deliver that message of breath inside the body. So filter it through the nose, inhale, and exhale, bowing into that space behind your heart. With deep gratitude, namaste.